Welcome to the Back to the Feature podcast, the show where we talk about movies past, present, and future. Today, we are talking about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vandeloo.
And it's definitely one of those great trilogies, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I know for us, at the age that we're at, 27, that it came out in probably about the perfect time. We were probably the perfect age demographic to get really into these fucking movies.
Yeah,
yes.
Influenced heavily.
yeah. And I think of it. I definitely have always made the connection with this film trilogy with how the people that talk about like, hey, I was there in '77 when Star Wars came out. I was there. I went to the theater, and I think that this trilogy has that same kind of feeling to it. Kind of the enormity of it, and just it being this great epic trilogy of films. And I think the word epic is probably going to get thrown around a lot with it, because I really think that it is kind of the embodiment of that kind of film, like what that kind of means when you're talking about a film
culturally
that's
impactful,
epic, or that is at an epic scale like that.
I just want to talk about like our beginnings with it.
Yeah, sure.
Which is funny because this film, I know a lot of people are book nerds. My dad's not a big fantasy reader, so this isn't a book that I was very familiar with at all prior to it being in theaters. And I just remember being at the mall with my dad, and the poster was there. We just kind of had a free afternoon, so I looked at the poster and I'm like, whoa, let's go see that. I literally didn't know anything else until the opening line with the quote when Cate Blanchett's, the one ring to rule them all. I was like, oh, this is that book. I'm 11 years old, by the way, for context. So sat in the front row, packed theater, knew nothing. It's one of the greatest movie-going experiences of my life. I had to get up and pee twice. Because I had a big Coke. But just experiencing it like that with no pre-knowledge, no trailers, nothing. Because we didn't really have TV. We didn't have cable television back then, so it's literally just going in completely blind.
I do have to ask you, what scenes did you get up in your first viewing? I'm curious. So what scenes were they that you walked out? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Crap. I don't. I've seen the movie way too many times to know what I possibly missed that first time.
Yeah.
Because I saw it in theaters like 3 or 4 times, too. The Fellowship. And then I saw Two Towers 5 times in the theaters. Saw Return of the King 3 times. So, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was Rivendell. Might have been my first.
That'd be I think that would be a decent.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get up during a movie, try and find.
It's probably after the ring wraiths get washed away, and you're like, I'm gonna take a piss.
Yeah,
you probably miss Sam and Frodo saying, "Oh, let's go home."
Mr. The Act 1 is now complete.
Yep.
Good time to go urinate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because as long as you're back for the council, I think that's important.
Yeah.
You gotta be there.
I didn't miss that.
I did not miss
that.
You didn't miss any of the big numbers. I had
11. I had a 6th grader's bladder too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I'm out. I'm back in. It's
bang bang.
Easy.
Running real fast and loose at that age too. Didn't have to hit everything.
No.
It's spray and run. Probably didn't care about washing your hands either. Probably wiped them on your jeans.
I'm getting back to this movie as fast as possible.
Well, for me, it was the going to the theater when I was a kid. It's probably why I love movies. Is that thing. My dad loves going to the theater, so it was kind of like if we were gonna do something on the weekend, we were gonna go out somewhere and do something, or even run errands that day. He would want to fit going to the theater and going to see a movie in.
Yeah.
And I remember we were going into the theater at the mall. And it was a really cool layout. I always remember it as a kid as being my favorite because it had upstairs and a downstairs. It was escalators in the theater.
Oh, cool.
And it was 2 different rows of movie theaters, and they'd have the posters outside each of the doors and stuff. It just looked so cool. And I was coming down the escalator stairs on the big screen as you're going down it. There is the first teaser where it was them walking up on the mountain, after the theme comes in, the fellowship of the film is like that, and it's them coming over that hill, and it's showing each of the characters. And that was the first thing I'd ever seen him in, like, coming soon, The Lord of the Rings, and they announced, like, all 3 of the dates. And I was like, what is that? Because as a kid, I always loved swords. Like, my mom always said, if it looked like a sword, it was either a sword or a lightsaber. It became that, whatever it was, you know? And so seeing that already was like, but I wasn't familiar yet. So I went out and before the movie came out, I got, like, the paperback, and I started reading it, and I started, like I was a kid, I was such a nerdy kid, I still am nerdy like that, where it's like, when I'm really into something, I always deep dive.
Yeah,
I can't help but not deep dive on something, and I have to go get all the info, and
this is like next level too, by the way, guys.
But it was because, honestly, too, because I think at that time, it's because we used to hang out in Barnes and Noble a lot. My mom loved to read, so, like I said, that was a day out, a lot of times with my family. We'd go to Barnes and Noble and then go to the movie theater.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I would read books and comics and then go watch movies.
I want that to be my Saturday.
Yeah.
Every Saturday. Get a massage maybe now. Fit
that in, you know. Oh. But it's, it was one of those things, so it's like they kind of went hand in hand. I heard about this movie, I saw this teaser, my interest was piqued, and then so of course they started to push that kind of stuff at Barnes and Noble too, like, well, hey, you know, we got the books. So it was in there, I think I started reading it, I'd sit down and I'd read little bits of it, and then I finally got, after, when the movies finally came out, I went and saw them, it was my dad that took me. And it's too, like, early on too, it was more of it wasn't I was too committed, it was like this interest where it was like every time I'd go, I'd read a little bit. But then when we actually went to the theater and saw the movie, I was just immediately hooked. Like, it just, and I don't see how someone couldn't be with that film. It's just a film I think that, like, draws you in. So my dad took the 2 of us, me and my brother, and we saw it, and then immediately I was like, Mom, we gotta go now too. Like, you'll love this. Like, you have to go. It's like the best movie ever. And so I went. That was my second time, was taking Mom to go. And it's funny because she fell asleep right around Rivendell, and I woke her up. And I was like, "Oh, wake up!" You know, right before the council. But yeah, like at first she was like, "Man, that was a long movie." The first time she ever saw it. But I don't blame anyone for saying that, because they're long movies. Yeah. All about roughly 3.5 hours, even in the theater.
Cut Mom some slack anyway.
Definitely cut Mom some slack, because then she became the biggest Lord of the Rings addict in the household, and she, like, was a lot of the reason why I, like, have seen the movie so many times. Like, it became something that our family, like, just absolutely loved. This trilogy, it was a thing we all collectively were like, we all love this thing. Like, we're all, like, my mom is pretty nerdy in that way too, where it's like, if she's really into something, she gets really into it. And so, like, it became a normal thing in the house that, like, if there was, like, a white noise film, or, like, there was something on, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just, I think we all do that, right? We're all in the house sometimes. When you put something on, either it's music, or sometimes it's a movie, or a show. Yeah. You know, where it's like, you could get the stuff done, because you've seen it, like, 8 billion times, you love it, and you love all the, like, everything on it, so it's like, it's a movie that you play a lot. Yeah. And it basically became that, like, every day, a Lord of the Rings movie was played in that house.
It's crazy.
Like, it's crazy. It would just be 1 through 3, constantly. It would be like, oh, we're just all gonna sit down and, like, so I'm gonna start cooking dinner while we're, you know, doing our homework, and dinner will be soon. It's like, oh, what do you guys want? Let's just put Lord of the Rings on. Yeah. And that was just how it was when I was growing up, after those movies came out, where it was just the next one would be in, and the next one would be in. I have to say, I've probably seen all of the movies like 50 times. And I honestly don't think that's me exaggerating the number.
Oh, each one 50 times?
Each one. I've probably seen, each one 50 times. So, like, 150 viewings probably of this movie. I can't say that, because it was like...
It would be like 50, it was like 50 viewings of the entire...
It was a period of a long time. It was years. Because we would watch 1 and 2 a bunch before 3 came out. You know what I mean? That happened.
Yeah, totally.
Because, and it was... So, I have to have seen them. Like, it's something that, like, I really wish I knew what the tally was. How many times I've seen these movies. Like, I don't think I know any movies that was better than that.
I was counting for a while. I know that I've seen The Fellowship of the Ring at least 40 times. Yeah. Like, I know the number's higher than 40. Because I was counting for a while. I think when The Two Towers came out, that's when I started counting, because I saw it 5 times in theaters. Yeah. And it wasn't like... Because, like, I often cite that The Two Towers is my least favorite. if that's even such a word, if I
it's like, how do you pick among your children, John? You have 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's totally true in that way. It's like it's just the second act.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's like the first act is cool because it's introducing you. The third act's awesome because it's concluding everything. The middle act it's got Helm's Deep.
Oh God,
it's got Helm's Deep. But it's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all great.
We're definitely gonna talk about.
We're gonna dive into
each
one, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so those early days with it, like I remember leading up to the Two Towers because that was the cut came out, and I think that was a big moment for us because that's I think when it became like the cycle of like watching them time, and too as a kid you never have restraint kind of sometimes. It's just like this is the favorite thing I watched like 8 billion times. Even though I wasn't even that young, though, I still being like 11 when the first one came out too. But they were just like I said, it was just that thing that was always on, just so into it. So even before that, like we watched the extended cuts of Fellowship multiple times before we even saw Two Towers in the theater. It's like I feel like it's like this podcast is part of like a thing of like almost an intervention, like a singular self-reflective intervention.
Yeah, first one's admitting.
Yeah, that I think I had a problem.
Yeah,
I had a problem.
You'd
addicted to Lord of the Rings.
You'd be filling it with something else, and besides the original Star Wars trilogy, I would argue this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, like Harry Potter brings something too.
Yes.
I know there's fans that have that same type of love, but this is still a different level.
And if we're gonna just to talk about them in general, because I really want to talk about the Star Wars, Lord of the Rings parallel, and because I think that we've always done that. Those are the 2 big trilogies I feel like in cinema, as far as like good block, like I said, the epitome of like an epic film trilogy.
In a lot of ways, both trilogies, and they're the only 2 trilogies that truly did it. And I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but made an impact that reshaped cinema.
Yeah.
And how cinema is marketed, and just the advancements in technology for each trilogy it just launched so much.
Some people will hate that I make this reference or say something like this, but it's like it is kind of like the Beatles of movies, like especially at least for the modern era, I guess in that way, where it's like. Like the Beatles helped like create the music video. Like they're the first people to use like feedback, like in a song, like recording it to be part of a song. Like there was for so many things that were first. It's funny because it was like they took the era from the 30-watt Vox amp to having half stacks playing stadiums like Shea Stadium.
Yeah, because there's so many people
exactly. So it's like they had to make this work, and it created like the template for every band afterwards. Like. This is how you tour now. This is what a music video is. So I think of Lord of the Rings in that same way, where it's like they created CGI fire for the first time and stuff like that. Whereas like it didn't exist and they needed to make it work.
Yeah, in-camera motion capture. Yeah, first,
and it is it's insane. I think that when you look at the size of these movies, and I think that it's crazy in the way that like I feel like. We might not get too many things like it ever again because of where movies are kind of now. Because, as of course, Hollywood always takes the worst lessons. I think TV took a lot of good lessons from the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Well, I think
took it into what we love about it. And so I think what television has started to do. And movies took the wrong parts.
Totally.
And let that influence how the big blockbusters are now.
It's funny because we just finished watching the extended editions. Mm-hmm. It was actually my first time.
I had to get my 51 times, guys, of each.
It's my first time ever watching it on Blu-ray. On a 4K
Oh, yeah,
TV.
that was great.
It was upscaling. I've been looking for a 4K of it, and there isn't. I don't think. Maybe there is. If there is, guys, please comment, share a link. But I ended up borrowing it to a friend afterwards, and it's like 12 and a half hours of goodness right there, and you just like, oh my gosh, just laughs. It's like, it's just like a whole season of television.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like watching a season of television.
But I always love that, though. Like, that's why I love, like, British TV, too, because it's like a 9-hour story. That's what's great about, like, True Detective Season 1. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's this 10-hour contained story. Like, you get to flesh out a story completely, but also still bring it to an actual close. And it's the most satisfying storytelling, I think.
I think so
in
too,
a lot of ways, because you've got that perfect balance. It doesn't outstay its welcome, and it has a story with purpose and direction, but it gives you time with its characters and its world to actually like fall in love with it a little bit and like be transported and be immersed in it. Like, there's a lot of people like, they want to make the comparison of Game of Thrones to Lord of the Rings, but like but I really think it's more of their philosophy as far as their storytelling. When you look at a show like that, comparing it to Lord of the Rings and that influence that it had.
I think the main thing it's compared to is only because it's a fictional world where they focus a lot on the maps.
Yeah,
the maps are showing the title.
It's the medieval fantasy for sure. People see swords and they have like one reference.
Westeros, Middle Earth. You got these different kingdoms that show. You get to visit each one.
But I think really that the idea of like having these characters and a lot of characters that are fleshed out and having Sean Bean, you have to have Sean Bean at least a little bit in your media production of any TV, movies, everything. I love Sean Bean.
Yeah, Sean Bean's awesome.
And I love Boromir. We'll talk, I'm sure, as we get into each specific one. But I think that I think that a lot of studios now have taken the wrong. And it's funny because it's like they took the wrong things for when they did The Hobbit too. I feel like, oh man, I am not so much of a fan of these that I give the Hobbit movies a pass.
I think some of the things though, and I read somewhere that like even said like the CGI orcs and stuff, like obviously that's a big misstep.
Huge misstep.
But from my understanding though is that, and I don't want to talk about the Hobbits too long, but I think they're practical effects warehouse burned down. That's what I read. That's what I read somewhere. I don't know if that's true or not. And then Peter Jackson coming on way late. Guillermo del Toro, he always backing out of projects because I think he was on for.
Yeah, we're mad at him.
Dark Universe.
I know. I'm DC sure he's happy he made Shape of Water instead, though.
Yeah,
I'm sure he feels okay about his decisions right now. So that's kind of why I said we can't rag on Guillermo too much because he made the right moves.
I'm sure that's why he backs out of those iconic things to steal some kid's project, right?
Oh gosh,
that's why he backed out of all these other iconic projects.
Was so good.
It was so good. He needed to.
The film was so good. I had to take the film. No, Jesus, no one's watching your movie, buddy.
But yeah.
Yeah, if you had directed your movie like Guillermo del Toro, we'd give you an Oscar too. It didn't look like The Shape of Water, buddy. It didn't even look like The Devil's Backbone. So, hit the pause button on that. Oh gosh, but yeah, it would have been great if. And I think that's one of the things that you see with the Lord of the Rings trilogy is that there's been so much care and time taken,
passion.
Like there's like every piece of armor, every sword has a story. Like every orc is different, unique looking, like
and well done,
and like everything on them is real. Like they made chainmail, they made real chainmail. Those guys linking tiny pieces of metal to make entire shirts.
New Zealand's economy boosted during that time, and actually stayed like plus numbers since then because of these films, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, truly, like New Zealand became like the one spot you got to stop.
Oh yeah, and then now people want it as like a destination vacation type thing because they're like, I want to go to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and it honestly seems like a pretty cool place. And I also love Flight of the Conchords too, so I want to go for that. Oh, we'll take a Waititi in general.
Yeah.
Really, it's the shooting on location though. Yeah, for sure. It's all of these real tangible things that they did. Making Edoras. Making like these huge sets, making castles, making armor. They were like a fully functioning like society while they were a movie. It's crazy.
Now it's 2 years of filming too, I believe, right? And they filmed all three together.
Well, I know that I forget how long it was before they did the Fellowship because they had a hard time getting off the ground, but he was making the Shire already.
Oh yeah,
I think it was over a year before they actually started filming.
It's like 2 years of principal.
So like he built doors and hills and shit. Like he built those house fronts and stuff, and then built a bag end.
Yeah.
And I would love, like I said it when we started watching, I would love to live in the Shire. I think that it's one of the most gorgeous places in film to me. Like, it just looks so peaceful and calming. Like, you could just live there forever in absolute peace. And he's able to capture that so perfectly, and it's like a fucking fairy tale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that fairy tale fucking shit. But it is, though.
It is. No, totally.
I know that I'm awake. I feel like I'm in a dream. A little in Bruges humor for you film geeks out there.
But weed in the South Farm. Just toke with Gandalf and watch fireworks.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lovely simplicity to it, like to the Shire, and like why you would love to live there. And I think that they do such a great job too, though, of like kind of showing the grouchy like Hobbit society, like how they're kind of these very sheltered people because of it. They live in this kind of isolated place where there's nothing bad ever happens there. And, it's he captures this like beautiful quaintness that it has, and even then, like the people don't seem bad. They don't seem like bad people. They're just sheltered and they just don't want any trouble.
Well, it's like Merry and Pippin. They're like the troublemakers.
Oh, exactly.
They're the trouble.
But it's all
they're
fun.
the troublemakers.
They're the troublemakers, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just all fun.
And the worst thing, they light a firework.
They light a firework,
and then they're made to do dishes randomly. And they just accept it. Like, these are adult. They're also adult. Well, I don't know how old are they in the books.
It's funny because I have not brushed up on my book knowledge.
We're talking about the movies.
We're talking about the films.
Yeah.
But I think that the implication though is that like all hobbits live a long time. Bilbo being 111 is pretty old, but it's not like he's insanely old. Like he's pretty old for a fucking hobbit though. Like he's pretty old.
11-1.
I think that they're like supposed to be like 30, 40. But even then, that would be a young man. That'd be like a 20-year-old hobbit. A 20-year-old human is like a 30, 40-year-old hobbit or something like that. It's a little off. Like they live a little longer. It's kind of like how Aragorn is like 86 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Because
I think even then too, like some of like the technical humans like live kind of a little bit extra than what we would have like obviously in reality back then. Yeah, there's definitely that fantasy element to
the Black Plague just swung through the Shire.
Oh my god, I don't want to see that trilogy. Jeez, it would just be the dark ages of Middle Earth, because Sauron being a giant flaming eye in the frickin' sky wasn't bad enough, right? Now we gotta have a plague, bunch of nasty rats on boats and shit. Oh god. No, John, that's like the darkest timeline right there.
Guys, I feel the emotion from the first time I watched the film, and just when you see the Shire,
the Fellowship,
and I think this is why the Fellowship is or has been my favorite film all this time of the three. It's just that nostalgia. It's the introduction. You get to see you're brought into this world, and no other film has quite done that, because like even Star Wars, and I don't want to rag on Star Wars too much because that's one of my some of my favorite movies of all time as well. Yeah. But the sets, Star Wars, because with it being science fiction, with it being set in space, the sets, it's smaller sets. Yeah. I feel like in some ways the scale is the scale is very large in Star Wars, but it's different. Yeah. Yeah, you're dealing with like studios, sets. Yeah. Where Lord of the Rings, it's very expansive. You're literally looking at your planet, and you didn't even know. And this is like we had dial-up internet maybe in our house. I'm talking about like a time period where me clicking on you didn't see things like as much as you would like now. Yeah. So seeing like New Zealand, seeing Middle Earth, seeing that brought to me in my little Wisconsin hometown, the Shire kind of reminds me of Wisconsin in a lot of ways. A little bit. Remember, too, this is before I ever moved. You go up to a party. No frame of reference. Some Norwegian families up here that party exactly the same way. I mean, that is the
they're quite sheltered.
Yeah, they're quite sheltered. They all have accents as well. I mean, it's...
Ja, hey there. Get some milk in a bag.
Some milk in a bag.
Milk in a bag. Yeah.
But,
only Wisconsin.
Only Wisconsin. But I mean, but seeing it, like Frodo when he's sitting in the Shire, he's reading, and Gandalf comes up. It's just like iconic. You're just like, wow, it's so beautiful, and it's just everything's so relaxed.
And there's something so pure about it. There's something so pure and just not fake about it. Like where it's just like he is genuinely overjoyed that he's coming down the way, and there's nothing. I don't know. It's like it's free of all of just our nasty modern ways that we think of things, and I think that there's like I said, there's just a beautiful, pure simplicity to it. You know what I mean?
Which is awesome in context and contrast with the rest of the film, too. And that's something that J.R. Tolkien was very gifted at. Being able to, he's so descriptive.
Yeah. Well, he's so great at world building. Like that, and that's the thing, though. It's like, I think that's the parts of Lord of the Rings that really get remembered the most. It really set the template for fantasy. Like... and I mean, other guys had used the same ideas, but it really brought it to, I think, a broader audience in literature first. I think that it really, every book was compared to it then after that. So I think it's only fitting that every movie now gets compared that's kind of like that, like you're saying. It's like, oh, it's got swords and people like that and horses and stuff, so it must be like Lord of the Rings.
It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, yeah.
But yeah, like with the orcs, there's orcs and elves and dwarves and hobbits or halflings, like the D&D template,
Yeah.
Like it really helped, I think, popularize that and really spread so that people like Robert Jordan could even have careers. But yeah, I think that their influence on like the fantasy genre, it's kind of like I think the same way we think of Star Wars as kind of being the sci-fi like equivalent, even though it's funny because it's taken from so many other things, but it's the one that had any kind of lasting power with people.
Yeah.
And you can't forget that point now that we're this far out. You know what I mean? Like no one's talking about John Carter from Mars.
We talked about that. I loved your analogy about like the tire. Of course, the tire's been in existence, or the car has been in existence, but that's a Ferrari.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But he made a Ferrari.
Exactly.
He didn't invent the car. But yeah, just going in, which was so exciting because it's funny because we've been talking about going through and rewatching the extended cuts for a long time. I picked them up on Blu-ray. It's actually the first time me personally owning them. Like I said, it was the first time I watched them on Blu-ray.
I think probably every 2 weeks I'd bug you about it.
Like, when are we gonna do it? Yeah, it's tough. We're both working professionals. I have 3 children. We have separate lives as well. So sitting down and watching a 4-hour movie
it takes planning.
especially when we run a show where we have to go and watch other movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're like,
and we watch this one and this one this week. And
and we watch television shows as well. Yeah. And we love video games,
Monster Hunter,
and we read. We do everything.
I try to read as much.
We
as
try to get some sunlight every once in a while.
You're still trying?
I'm not. Lucky for me,
Embrace the vampire life.
I'm a ginger, so I only need a couple minutes of vitamin D and I'm good.
Yeah,
just peek out and go back in. But yeah, finally getting to rewatch it, and it's been years. And we talk about I've watched these movies so many times.
It was really great to give it time.
Yeah,
I'm glad that I gave it time.
I want to rewatch it again. I probably am going to show my son it. He's 7. He's going to be 7 soon. I think that's right about a good time. Maybe it's a good time. I think
knowing your son, the scary elements are not going to freak him out.
It's 50-50. I showed him. I had to rewatch the Pelennor Fields.
Oh yeah.
With him. I just put it on and I was just sitting there and I just watched his facial expression. He's like, we should watch that, It's like, well, there's 2 films before this one, so. But I just kind of wanted to see what his reaction would be. And, God, that scene, Return of the King, is, when Rohan comes,
Yeah.
It's powerful, yeah. So I might rewatch him again soon.
But definitely, though, let's go back to the Fellowship, though.
Let's go back to
Let's knock these down. But I mean, I think that we both really expressed our love for the Shire. I think that that's like a destination. Like if these are the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You know, I was a little kid and they asked me like, "Hey, what do you want?" Like, can I go to the Shire set like once? Like that would be great. Like it's definitely like a destination like movie set. Like if I could pick a movie set to ever go to, I would probably pick the Shire. To go to that. If I could just experience one and get to walk around and like look at everything and poke through stuff, like I would want to go.
Totally.
Because and I think it's the attention to detail as well. There's just so much attention to detail. Like you look around Bilbo's house, and there's like every item in there has purpose. Like everything, its placement looks so lived in and real, and like you just feel like you could just rifle through those papers and keep finding things and keep finding things and keep finding things.
It's insane. What Peter Jackson did was insane. Yeah. It truly is insane. The set when you're first shown Bilbo, he's sitting there and he's writing there and back again, and you see that shot of him just sitting in a seat writing, and everything in that room, just look around the shot.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's like when people have those puzzles. It's like find the one thing that's out of place. There's so much detail, so many things in there.
I love too when he's walking around the house with Gandalf.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. And the part of it that's crazy, especially with that part, is that like there's all these things. Like you see like the bread that's been like cut like on the table. You know what I mean? He's already been eating kind of away at it.
Maps
and the maps laid out and like. But you have to also remember. He's still, at the same time, with all this detail in his house, he's using forced perspective the entire time with Bilbo and Gandalf
to show the height,
to make it look like it's, that they are a different size. And it's that kind of ingenuity that, like, Peter Jackson keeps displaying throughout these films that is so just amazing. Like, it's just, as far as, like, a director... Like,
he had to have two of those, right?
Yeah.
Two of those same exact homes. Yes. Set up exactly the same way. Yes. With the same crap laying everywhere.
Yes.
And then, because that's insane.
It's insane. It's really interesting. Like, I think that some of the greatest movie moments are because of, like, they're forced to have to do it a certain way. And I think that like, when you give a lot of people, like directors, these creative people, directors and actors, and I mean everybody else that's working on the production as well, when you get these really creative people together, they're able to push through these obstacles. And I think that every time you hear some of these great movie moments, it was because of something like that. Where you had all these minds going, okay, we need to figure this out. How can we make this shot work?
Yeah.
And all these people getting together and these creative people. And I think it's such a great display of like their artistic skill and their ability to craft film. Like a part of it is like things don't work all the time and you have to figure it out, I think that this movie is like The Fellowship, especially because you can tell that as they're going on, that like especially by the time you get to Return of the King, and I think that's why Return of the King always in some ways feels a little bit different, because Fellowship has that feeling of we are not sure if this is going to be a hit. We don't know what's going to happen when this releases. Like they're trying to, but he's this guy that had to fight to get it made. Yeah. That had been spending years putting parts of it together. Like that's what it is. It's like a band's first album. You know what I mean? Where it's like this guy worked really hard to even get this thing off the ground, and he's curated like every shot of it, and he's fucking put so much time into it. And that is what Fellowship has, I think, over the other two. Especially over Return of the King. As much as there's things about Return of the King that I love so much, but visually, that's what Fellowship has that the other ones don't quite have. You can see that it's been in this pressure cooker, and that you're seeing something that's been refined. Like, and something that is so much passion put to it, and people having to figure things out. Like I said, like the Balrog in that movie, like they had to create a way to even visually make that monster a thing, and it's one of the most quotable, epic scenes in film history now. Yeah. Okay? Like, that is insanity. But they had to figure it out. Why? They had to figure it out to make the film work.
We should go through it. Through the minds of Moria.
So, I think that's why, for me, because that's why I feel so much more transported by The Fellowship, The Ring, than the other films. I feel so much more transported and put in a new world.
I just think, like, even like I said, like, some of the first, like, you're discovering aspects of your planet that you never saw before. But even then, like Rivendell, you get to see Rivendell for the first time. It's like, oh, like that's the closest thing to heaven I've ever seen. Like created and put to film. and just like
closest to heaven that I've ever seen. You trying to quote the Goo Goo Dolls right now?
Oh my gosh. But I mean, but
yeah,
like,
it's otherworldly though.
It's otherworldly, and the other aspects of the Fellowship too. It's like, for one, the Fellowship. They're all together yet, and that's an awesome thing. And Boromir.
Oh gosh.
Maybe we should just swing our topic into here because
he's in enough of the movie, isn't he?
Yeah. But I mean, like, if you look at and after rewatching it, towards the end of the trilogy in Return of the King, when they're all the Fellowship is back together when they return from Mount Doom, and you realize, holy crap, yeah, like almost all of them lived besides Boromir, and that death in that movie is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so moving, and in a lot of ways, I mean, just projects like the emotion and the weight of everything going forward.
I think the interesting thing, and there's a lot of people that don't like Boromir, and I think that it's because, it's funny, I think it's because of the fact that I've watched these freaking movies so many times, especially the extended cut. But I think that when you watch the whole story unfold and you realize who Boromir really was, and what it was that was driving him to want to use the ring, it makes his story so much more compelling. And so I think it's tough because, like, I don't blame people for that they've watched it a couple times, right? And they've only watched the theatrical or whatever. Or even then, like, even if you watch the theatrical, you learn a lot more about Boromir and what made him actually a good person, and not just, this guy that was hungry for the ring and was going to take it from Frodo. Because people really, I think... But I think it's because they're also not giving the ring enough credit in some of that. And then Denethor nearly enough credit. But I think when you finally see Denethor for any audience member, you start to really understand, like, okay, Boromir had to deal with that guy. That's the guy that was sitting there in his ear going, okay, like, at all costs, you must get this thing to us.
Yeah.
To help us.
And just
and seeing the state of Gondor itself.
Going through what they've gone through for ages.
So I think that when you watch it for the first time, if you don't love Boromir, I'm not going to blame you, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was kind of a villain too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in that way, the way that people I think view him as, like, I don't really like him as a character. I think that was definitely my viewing of him the first or second time. Even though I think his redemption at the end is so awesome. I mean, it's great. It's just one of the most powerful moments.
Even singularly, I think it works great. Like, if you'd ever watched the movies after it, I think that you could really reconcile with Boromir's behavior by the end of it.
And just seeing, like, Aragorn's personality and what he stands for.
It's the moment he becomes the king in that way to me. Like, he becomes more than just Strider. Like, it's the moment Strider goes away to me.
Totally. Which, little fun fact, he deflects that blade.
In real life. He's a badass. You don't fuck with Viggo.
Yeah, that was an accident. That was not a prop blade. That was a real in-camera thing.
It's funny.
It's crazy that
he's the master of that, though. He might have one of those in every film. I need to look at the Return of the King. But yeah, and that too. It's such an epic fight.
Well, in the Two Towers, he almost drowns.
Oh, there's a couple things in the Two Towers because he breaks his foot on that helmet too.
Yeah, he
and
gets the helmet.
His real scream because he broke his freaking foot.
And then that was him in the river face down.
Dude, you know what? I just realized this dude isn't even acting. Wow, Viggo, you're not even a good actor. You just have bad things happen to you on camera. Just kidding. No, I think Viggo is one of the greatest things in this trilogy. Just going back to him in Fellowship, and we're talking a little bit about that ending part, but like that moment where he lets Frodo, go Frodo, and he goes to defend him, and he walks around that corner, and there's all the Uruk-hai.
Yes,
all standing there, and just a horde of them. Like, it's just from tree line to tree line. It's just black people, sorry, blackened people. But it's no, I'm just joking. But it's such an epic, amazing scene of just that moment. It's one of the best moments of slow mo in a movie. Sometimes I don't tolerate it, but it's so amazing and impactful. So he puts that sword in front of him, and just like. It just changes how you feel about Aragorn. Like, he just hits that next gear where you just kind of realize, okay, he's the guy.
Yeah, because him fighting off the 9 ring wraiths.
Well, that was badass as well.
He turns around and whips that torch right in his face. That's
yeah,
pretty awesome.
it's definitely badass.
And he sings.
But I think that there's something even more. I don't know. I think there's something even more noble about like what he does in that moment. And like I said, it's like where the character really changes. Like like in the fight scene with the ring wraiths, he's still, like I said, he's still Strider in that moment. To me.
Yeah. He's fearless.
Yeah.
In it, and Aragorn he's one of my favorite movie characters of all time. He's just Viggo Mortensen just really brought that character to life more so than I think. He was in the book. And
what I love about Aragorn is that he represents, I think, what every man should aspire to be. I think we're talking a lot in this last year about, how men should behave, how men should be, and who they should look to as role models. And I think that we need to definitely find real life role models as well. But as far as characters, and I think that, I think characters can be just as impactful, if not more impactful to people, as far as the things that they want to emulate. But I think that if there's a male character to look at sometimes, I think that Aragorn is such a great example of the kind of, like, man that you should try to be. He's such a balanced, like, person. You know what I mean? He's
diverse. He dates an elf. He's faithful to her, too. He's been hit on left and right.
He's faithful. He's open-minded.
Yeah.
He is patient.
He's very humble.
He's extremely humble. He's extremely kind. Like, you even think about, like, even when Sam is threatening him, like, right at the beginning when you first meet him, like, there's still something about him that is still so kind and warm. You can trust him. Like, you feel that immediately with him. And Viggo Mortensen kind of, like, does such a great job of, like, bringing all these things to the table. You know what I mean? He sits and contemplates and smokes his pipe, and he sings, he hunts a deer, and then he can kick anyone's ass with a sword. Like, that's what you should be. Like, Aragorn's a straight G. Like, he does everything. He's, like I said, he's sensitive, he's artistic, he's intelligent, he's a leader, he's a physical wonder. You know what I mean? Like, he does everything. And I think that we should always strive for kind of like balance, I think, as ourselves as men. We shouldn't try to just be one thing. And I think that, like, especially, I think, you're a father, but being a father and a leader, I think that that great thing of Aragorn, that he encompasses so much, and he brings so much balance and warmth to everything, Even
in that little glimpse of a future that, him being a father as well.
Mm-hmm. So he'd be a great dad.
He'd be a great dad. You see him hugging his son, and
that's what that single tear from our ones is. He'd be a great dad too.
He'd be a great dad. You didn't tell me, Elrond.
You didn't tell me he'd be such a great father. No, I think
he will die one day, though.
He will die.
He will die. We know that.
He'll just be like 100.
Which, gosh, that scene is such an amazing scene. Rewatching it, that panning, like of her, like, just standing,
her eternity.
Yeah.
I love that, because I would always use that when people are like, "Oh, yeah, I never want to die." It's like, really? Watch this scene.
Yeah, you give up your immortality for life with someone. Yeah.
Exactly. If you actually care about people, immortality is not the thing. But it's such a great. Like I said, he has all of the things that every man should try to be. You know what I mean? Just all encompassing, so balanced, and just like I said, he's just something about Aragorn, and with his performance, Viggo Mortensen's performance. Like I said, it's just, you immediately trust him. Like, you feel like you would follow him.
It's actually,
he could be a king.
He could, I think, though, it's funny because, like, some people might be like, well, I mean, not everyone's an alpha. He's obviously an alpha. Yeah. But like, you got Sam character who, I mean, that's an amazing person to emulate, and I mean, Gandalf as well. Which, I want to touch on that too. So many different characters, so awesome, so well written characters. But touching on that with Boromir, like, if you don't like Boromir for what he felt, I mean, he tried taking the ring, but he also didn't quite. He was crying in the woods, like, when he succumbed to trying to take it.
Yeah.
And if you looked at, like, Gandalf's reaction when Frodo was like, "Well, take it," and Gandalf's like, "No," like, just no way would I ever touch that, because of his fear of what he would become if he simply touched it. Like, and Aragorn too. You see Aragorn is tempted on the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like it's obvious that like he is staring at it. Like I should, you know what I mean? He's struggling with it. They all are. And Boromir struggles a little bit more, but look at where he came from. Look at who his father is. Look at what he's going through.
It's the one thing when we were watching the extended cuts, watching them when I was younger, definitely not as critical. And I think that rewatching them, the scene that stuck out the most as being a thing that, man, I wish they hadn't cut that, is that scene in the Two Towers where it shows Boromir after the first retaking of Osgiliath.
Yeah. It's such a good scene.
It's such an amazing scene because we get to see Boromir out of the context of what is probably one of the toughest times of his life. In a way. Like, you know what I mean? One of the hardest challenges, like resisting the ring. You know what I mean? That anyone can be thrown, okay? So we're seeing him at, like, the darkest time, basically. And I think that, like, to see where he came from, who he was to the people of Gondor, you know what I mean? What he meant to them. The kind of leader that he was. And honestly, that he was a good brother and that he wasn't, like I said, that he even understood before leaving that what his father was asking him was wrong. That there was doubt that he didn't want to have to do it. And then, too, of course, seeing the state in which Gondor is in, how desperately they need help. And he says it in the Council of Rivendell, but I think there's always something about seeing it. I think especially for most audience members, there's something about seeing it that, okay, now I really believe him. That it's really bad there.
It's really bad.
And I think that, too, it's just like, of the thing of, like, they don't know what the fuck it is. They don't know if they can use it or not use it.
3,000 years. It's all legend. It's all myth. I mean, people still have rings. I mean, like, the three elves, they're still ring bearers. Like, I don't know if they ever touched on the dwarves, the 7 dwarves. I mean, they said they went to their mountains. They got greedy. I don't know. I'm assuming they're all still alive yet. It was just the men. It was just the 9 men that got deceived.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, but like 3,000 years, it's like the Nazis trying to get the Ark of the Covenant back. Not knowing that they're going to melt if they open it up. Like, we're going to use this as power. We don't know,
Mm-hmm.
Little Indiana Jones reference, which is another
It's
trilogy.
good. It's a very solid metaphor for the exact thing, though. It's except that it makes Boromir a Nazi. We're trying to tell people what he's not.
It's a partial metaphor.
Like what the Nazis did.
Could have been anybody.
He's like a Nazi that you love. But
oh jeez.
Oh my goodness. But
oh man.
No, I think that he has a tragic story. And obviously that's not for everybody. You know what I mean? A story that he doesn't really win. You know what I mean? So I think that it's a tragic story. He fights his temptation, and he does in some ways overcome it, but he doesn't survive to see the end of it. And to really bring it.
I think the end is. I think enough. Him defending Merry and Pippin though is enough of a redemption. Yeah. I mean, he gave his life for halflings, like hobbits. Yeah. Like they're like barely looked upon by anyone. And men are considered greedy and proud, and he gives his life, and he didn't need to.
Yeah, no, he didn't need to.
He didn't need to. And like I love that little moment with him and Aragorn, like when he's got the arrows in him and he's dying, he's pale, he's breathing heavy, and Sean Bean's so good in that scene. I mean, he's got a lot of practice of dying on
he's
film.
The expert.
Some are quick, some are slow, some are just dismemberments. Yeah.
That man knows how to die.
He knows how to die. Herds, cattle.
Yep.
Whatever else exists.
I'm pretty sure he's died in every conceivable way. I wonder if that's a goal of his.
Is it like a 6-minute video on YouTube?
It's just there's a lot of footage.
Death edits.
There's a lot of footage.
But no, when he's just sitting there, he's like, I tried to take the ring. He admits his guilt to Aragorn. He didn't need to. It's such a powerful moment. It's such a good cap to that movie, and honestly, it's just one of those moments in the whole trilogy. It's like one of the best scenes.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think it is like it's one of 2 pinnacle moments of the Fellowship. The other one, obviously, being Gandalf on the bridge against the Balrog.
Yes. Which we can dive into the 2 towers with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, the Two Towers, like, I think you said it earlier, it's an excellent film. It's an excellent film still.
It's the one I saw the most in theaters, and it's my least favorite.
Yeah.
You know?
It's how do you reconcile?
I saw it 12 times, I think, before Return of the King came out in theaters, which was the next year.
Now, I think with the Two Towers, the thing that's interesting to me is that I feel like it's a bit more of an action movie than the other ones. Especially the first one. There's a lot more action in general. But I think that there's an interesting dynamic with the Fellowship being broken and divided into these multiple stories. They do a great job of, I think, having these multiple stories all going on and interlinking them in great ways and being able to move between them, and they all make sense, and keeping them together so well. Because it's going to have to continue throughout the rest of the films. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing, you know, like, we're moving on from that, but it's also a thing I want to mention, though, is just like, the reason I also love The Fellowship a lot is because it's got the only scenes where the whole group is together.
Yeah.
Because the whole Fellowship is together in that film, where we never see that ever again. And I love the kind of the subdivision of them, though. That is kind of cool. Like, Merry and Pippin going off on their, not really adventure, but...
being taken by the Uruk-hai.
Then one of the coolest trios in cinema to me, Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn.
Running literally across the world.
That was one thing, yeah. When we were watching it this time, that was a thing that really struck me. I don't know if now, just because I've done more running than when I was a kid, but it's like, God damn, how much they would have had to freaking run.
Yeah, when you think of like, oh, look at Gimli, he's complaining the whole time. It's like, he's doing exceptionally well for his stature and build.
like, oh my God, man, yeah.
Like, obviously,
wearing all that heavy armor, carrying a bunch of axes and shit.
He's doing good.
Yeah, no shame.
Breathing through a huge red beard. Like, yeah, he's got it.
That's the key.
That's the key.
Oh. But
it makes me think of Game of Thrones with the episode with Gentry.
Oh, Gentry, rowing. Yeah. He's still rowing somewhere.
The running.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot this last season. Yes.
Oh yeah, Spoilers for GOT. Sorry, not really.
No, not really. Gendry running. Well, I guess they don't know Gendry's back, but he does a bit of running. But yeah. It's
Whereas
very
this
similar.
is like it's similar,
but even longer.
But it's but the editing is good because it takes time. It's like the whole first act is like them running, trying to catch up.
It's one of those things that, like I said, I guess it never quite 100% struck me of just like how like insane that is, and archaic too.
I mean, Legolas, we know, could easily do it. He's wearing Peter Pan fabric. And he's Peter Pan fabric.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. If he took the pants off, he'd look like Tinkerbell. You're right.
Jeez. But he looks like a track and field kind of guy.
Yeah.
He shoots bow. You know, he can run forever.
He walks on top of snow and shit. He's fine. You know, and Aragorn's human plus. You know?
Yeah, human plus. And Gimli's like sucking wind, but he's gonna keep going because he's determined.
Yeah. No, I think they're one of the cooler trios in like film in general. Like, it's cool, you know. Obviously, this one you definitely latch onto them because of them fighting in Helm's Deep. You know, they separated. Just like, okay, you get Merry and Pippin, you're fun guys. We're gonna go hang out with some Ents, have some fun scenes. You know, hear long things. And then, of course, taking Isengard, though, was really quite badass. It's one of those storylines that, like, kind of, like, it sneaks up on you as being like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah. He's like, no, let's go past. Sorry, he just knew. Yeah. As soon as he saw it, it would change his mind. And I mean, in a lot of ways, they are the reason why.
Yeah,
Saruman was taken down.
All of the Fellowship have these great rousing victories and moments throughout the series. That's probably Merry and Pippin's biggest one, is taking out Saruman. They took out Saruman, basically. They took him off the table.
It was definitely their biggest move.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, after that, it's like, Pippin's the reason why the armies started marching against Minas Tirith.
Pippin being Pippin. He's being a tuck. He's a fool of a tuck. But, I mean, yeah, it always makes me sad a little bit, because you like Pippin as a guy, but yeah, he fucks up on the regular. You think
Okay.
about it, that's why Gandalf ended up falling, because he knocked that thing.
Yep.
They were quiet up to that point, so it's not the first major mistake.
Which, rewatching that, going back to the Fellowship quick, though, that troll still looks great.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that still look great in all the films.
They hold
and
up
I think
very well.
they age better than a lot of films do, especially from those years.
Yeah.
There's only a couple CGI moments, and they mainly involve Legolas throughout the series. That
Which he's the main one that they would use some CGI with.
CGI to, like, him do something crazy.
Yeah, like him coming up onto the troll.
Yep. That's probably the one thing in Fellowship for me that doesn't work.
I mean,
is
two towers.
It's not even when he's standing on it. It's just the run up the arm looks unnatural. It looks a little Gumby-ish. It looks a little Spider-Man.
Yeah, little Spider-Man 1, which is another great movie.
Another great movie. But it's overall though, and then we talked about it, like, as soon as we started watching these, it's like, it's, as we said before, it's all of those practical effects, it's all of those extras and all the makeup team and the props teams and the miniatures, like seeing like the towers, you know what I mean? Like in the first one they do it too, like I think it's Cirith Ungol, they do obviously a bunch of the two towers of when you get to see Isengard and Cirith Ungol, like it. The miniatures are honestly fantastic. It's one of those things that I wish that they would use more often again in film. Because you watch Alien. It's a fucking miniature, dude. Like, and it looks great. It looks great.
Did you watch Blade Runner 2049? What'd you like about it?
Yeah, it's
it's practical effects. It's gonna hold up forever.
Exactly.
Like, it's gonna hold up forever. It's gonna look good. The trench run in Star Wars, it hasn't. I mean, it's aged, but it looks good still.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it looks good.
It looks good still.
And Lord of the Rings definitely has that. And they had a harder time, I think, because of the fact that you can use CGI. I think that it's a lot easier, I think, for that stuff to age out real quick. I mean, go talk to the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Oof,
I mean,
I know.
They want their money back. Now, it's, I think that, like, there's obviously some things that could have been done better now. I think you definitely still acknowledge that, but it all still looks good. It all still seems tangible. It all works.
Yeah, I think in some ways watching it on my TV, though, too, poked through some flaws that, it looked like what could be flaws, but it's only because you're watching it in
such high definition.
I mean, truly though.
Yeah.
I mean, that is truly the thing. You're gonna see. You're gonna.
I would never want to watch The Wizard of Oz on your TV.
No.
I don't think I'd want to watch it on my TV. It's one of the worst edited films of all time.
Yeah,
and it'll just
because like
it would just poke through.
The things
so many mistakes.
Yeah, like the things that stuck out to me the most rewatching it this time is just some of the stuff, like some of the far off shots of the hobbits. Like you could tell they were other people or kids.
Yep.
There's some things just like it. Just some of those. I had a hard time with that things though, just looked
because they looked. I knew that they looked like that from before too, because I'd watched them so many times. So it was hard for me with the miniatures, or like not the miniatures. I mean the little people, the extras for the hobbits, like that they had.
There was kids, wasn't it?
There was kids and there was little people. Yes.
Yeah, but it's just some of it was just like you could tell.
People call you a dwarf when they want to call you a midget. Or if you call you a midget when you want to be called a dwarf. Of course you're gonna top yourself.
I got your movie. I got In Bruges still. I gotta watch that.
I'm just reminding you.
or even like the scene with Saruman and Gandalf when they face off for the first time. And you can see he's a practical effect. Like he's a
stunt guy.
I don't even think he was a stunt guy. I think he was a fake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Look closely. He looked like a dummy. Like moving his arm when he's twirling, and then goes up to the ceiling, and that turns to CGI or green screen. But like just small elements like that where I never noticed those things before at all. Ever. Like I didn't notice any like flaw in that. Whereas now I'm like, oh yeah, which is still cool. Like it's still awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's a practical effect. It looks great.
The first one that stuck out to me was when Frodo and Gandalf are at the table in Fellowship, and they're using the Force perspective because they're in the same room, and they just have Elijah Wood farther back to look smaller. It's a really long table.
Yeah.
And they have it set so that it's kind of at this angle so that he can be like serving him a drink. But like I could tell that their eye lines weren't matched up this time because I could see their eyes better. Like there was a part with like I couldn't even remember which scene it is, but it was because Elijah Wood's eyes are in so much of the fucking movie that like there was a time I could see his pupils dilating and shit. I was like, geez, like this is such high definition. I can like see his pupils dilating. Like what the hell?
OLED, perfect blacks.
I mean, it's cheating on Elijah Wood eyes because they're so enormous, like a Navi or a cat.
Yeah,
but,
and Peter Jackson likes the close-ups.
Yeah, he does. But I don't know. I love his style in this movie. I think it works.
Well, he's got some great actors for close-ups.
Yeah.
I mean, Elijah Wood is like literally the prettiest eyes like of any man.
Yeah.
And you got your Orlando Bloom, who at the time was
call him Elijah.
Like,
just call him
Prince. Ian McKellen. Just why wasn't he nominated for like Oscars?
I was just about to go there. Yeah, it's his performance as Gandalf is like truly amazing. I think we talk all the time about like things that make a lasting like impression in pop culture, and I think that like one of the few characters that really makes it out of the end is Gandalf, and I think that has a lot to do with his
Gandalf
performance
and Gollum.
Yeah, Gandalf and Gollum. Those are the two that have really stuck with me.
That was the thing too. We discussed this quite a bit. For a long time now, people are trying to get motion capture to be more taken seriously at the Academy Awards.
Well, actually, this is the interesting part about Two Towers, because this is really where it comes in. This movie was Two Towers, this motion capture.
Yeah, it's true.
Stuff.
Yeah.
That first scene with Gollum is crawling down. It's such an impressive scene. It's an impressive scene in filmmaking history. Really.
Yeah, it's such a cool shot.
Yeah, him crawling down, and then the fight that ensues too. Yep. Like when you're watching that, like motion capture performance,
and everything that Andy Serkis was doing. I mean, the voice itself is iconic.
Yeah,
absolutely iconic, and it's insane that someone was able to get their voice to sound like that. Do what he did. The goop drink that he had to drink the whole time, to get his voice more raspy like that. But like just the physical things that he was doing. He is running on all fours. He is going down the river after a fish. Like it's just crazy what Andy Serkis was doing,
throwing his body on like rocks and rivers and just going all out for this performance.
And even though like the motion capture at the time was, this is like that's some of the best ever.
Of
this
the time,
is revolutionary. Yeah. No one even knew you could do this like before this. But like the facial features, stuff like that, isn't as good as it is now. Like him as Caesar. As Caesar is in.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. Like, because I really wanted to look at that when we got to Two Towers. Was like, I really want to look at this performance now and try to figure out why you would take it out of contention and why you would discount it. And I think that for me, I felt like that the graphics weren't there yet.
I just feel like
fully capture his performance, where it's like you could see where it was a CGI creation. Like, even in, like, it's tracking his movements, but, like, the CGI itself isn't moving as fluid as, like, it would look now. You know what I mean? Things like that. It looks blockier, or, like, even, like, the chuggy, or whatever you want to say it. But, like, it didn't quite have the detail. I feel like the CGI lets his performance down.
Just a tad.
Just a tad. Like, if it had been done now, I think it would be much harder for them to say, we shouldn't nominate him. I think that the CGI wasn't there enough for him to get nominated.
Yeah.
Not his performance.
If Gollum,
at all.
I think if Gollum's the motion capture for like facial expressions was what it is now, he would have easily won an Oscar. But I think at the time though, like in a lot of Academy voters' eyes, that's like voice acting. It was still voice acting.
Yeah.
It was like he's putting a voice over.
And that you definitely can't take that away from him. I don't think voice acting. I think some people want to say that like a dirty word. I know actors do. They used to say that about TV, but now look at them. Brought them back down to earth. No, but no, with the voice acting, I think that voice acting is actually extremely challenging. I think people that can do voice acting are just as much of actors as guys that are in front of the camera, and I think that Andy Serkis' voice acting performance as Gollum is one of the greatest of all time. Like, even if we just take out the physical part of the performance, it's an amazing voice performance.
Yeah.
Like, the emotion that he brings to this character. Like, he's doing all this stuff to make the voice, to create this voice.
So, there's some other scenes, though. He's performing with himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he's arguing with himself in a reflection, or even like the shots of Peter Jack, the different perception shots where it's left and right.
Yeah,
Gollum,
well done.
Gollum and Smeagol.
It's so
Gollum
cool
and Smeagol arguing
because
about
it's
Precious.
so seamless. It's like you're almost not thinking about it. You're almost not thinking about
Yeah.
it. Like in the perfect level of like almost not thinking
everything
about
on the face changes too, which that is Andy Serkis doing that too, and like the tears are real. It just him hanging from things, jumping on things, just the all the different ranges, and just how like he turns so easily too. When he's thinking one way and then just being all mischievous behind it. It's just it's evil, but it's conflicted. He's such an amazing character.
A really tragic, sad character.
Yeah, which I love Gandalf's quote with him in the cave.
Yeah,
in Moria when he says that to Frodo. I still think he has a part to play in all of this, and he did. He led him to Mount Doom. So yeah, I mean, just like there's no character like wasted. Everyone gets a piece, and it's memorable.
Yeah, I think that people definitely discount some of the storytelling of J.R.R. Tolkien, like and just the overall Lord of the Rings story, because there's some great things about what is in that story. Things like Sam's character arc. You can't take that away from the J.R.R. Tolkien writing that. Like the character arc of Gollum. It's such an interesting turn in any story. Like we talk a lot about it being this great template for all fantasy after it, but there's also the element of it's really interesting twists in the story. There's really interesting character arcs in the story that probably really hadn't been done yet at that point. This character like Gollum becoming this big important piece. Yeah, like when you get to Return of the King, and I think that like this is almost unlikely creature kind of thing. Kind of how people feel about in the actual film and the books, how they feel about Frodo. So an unlikely person to actually be the one that helps destroy this thing, and it ends up being Gollum. Really, the most unlikely thing that could have really been the thing that spelt the end for Sauron. And I think that he's such a compelling character. It's such an interesting story. You can't take that away from J.R.R. Tolkien crafting those story beats in there.
Those elements, yeah.
Yeah. Like Sam's story is always something too that just hits really hard. And I think it's one of the things that makes Return of the King so
Share
good.
The load.
I could carry it for a while, Share the load. Share the load. Yeah.
Sam...
It's sticky. What is it?
Just leave that at that. But no, Samwise Gamgee, in a lot of ways, he's the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the movies. The story closes with him too. So I mean, like in a lot of ways, Sam, and I would say him taking down Shelob is, after rewatching it again this time, I just think that's probably the biggest feat that any character had to overcome singularly by himself. That's an intense fight for his life. Like this is like the world is resting on you overcoming this now.
Well, and that too.
So powerful.
But the thing of that he's doing this to save Frodo's life.
Yeah.
And that he can't turn around. He can't. If he leaves, that thing is going to eat Frodo. And he can't. There's no choice in his mind anymore. There can't be. It's life or death for Frodo and him if he doesn't do something. And it's such a triumphant moment. Like, Sam is us in the story. You know what I mean? I think he's the audience character. As I was talking about Aragorn before, he's everything a man should be. He's all these things, right? It's all this balance, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, most of us aren't balanced at all.
Yeah, no, we're not all kings.
Exactly.
And leaders
and
rulers.
He's this character that we can try to aspire to be like, but are probably never going to ever be. Where Sam is us. He's maybe got a little too much weight on him.
If we put our...
he's got just a normal job. He's from a normal place. But he has to overcome something completely beyond him.
He's that character that if we actually pursued it, and we could be.
Yeah, exactly.
If we put our full foot forward and put all our effort into being just a good person, like Samwise is someone, we could be. We can't carry the ring, but we can carry you, Frodo.
Yes. Yeah, and what's funny is like as a kid, I was one of those kids that was really parentified very early. And I just find there was always such a connection with Sam. Where he's just this guy who's always trying to take care of everybody
Sean
around
Astin
him.
is so awesome.
I want Sean Astin to be my dad. After this and then Stranger Things, it's just like I want Sean Astin to be America's dad. Like when Tom Hanks retires from being an America's dad, he doesn't have quite the acting career, but can Sean Astin be America's dad?
Please, yeah.
We could elevate Tom Hanks to like a grandfather level.
I feel like he's not quite old enough to be our generation's dad.
Yeah, exactly.
He's more like uncle right now.
Yeah, a really
responsible
uncle, but the straight-laced one.
Yeah,
he's just like really responsibly takes care of everybody.
Yeah,
I like that. But yeah, Sean Astin, it goes back to Rudy. He just has. I think it's just because he seems like a really good person in real life.
Yeah,
and it just sort of shines through every time you see him. But yeah, I love him as Sam. It's such a great story. All the homosexual innuendo aside.
I am dropped no Eve, sir. That's how it all begins.
But yeah, he's definitely the character that is there in place of us. I definitely, though, there was some characters, though, that didn't quite work for me as well as they did maybe when I was younger. Or I wouldn't maybe... I think there's a little more separation than there used to be for me. You know what I mean? It's like, I really love everybody. And it's not like I was like watching their scenes like, oh, jeez. But it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, they weren't nearly as cool to me or as interesting now that I'm like a full-grown adult. Like Legolas for me. You know what I mean? There's not enough to mentally chew on with him sometimes to be really interesting. He's just kind of like, he's a badass. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, yeah, look at the elf badass. Like, he's going to shoot the bow, he's going to be badass. But like, as far as like anything really emotional that's going on, or like, you know what I mean? There's the storylines like Boromir and Faramir and Aragorn and Sam. Like, there's...
definitely a mysterious character because we don't we don't explore Mirkwood either in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Whereas we get to see the Woods of Lothlorien, we get to see Rivendell, we get to see these tribes of elves, but we don't see Mirkwood. So and even his counterparts that come to the council don't even have lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
So there's definitely things left there that lessen the depth. Of what could, you know what I mean? Because in all fairness, I'll say too from reading the books, there's not that much in there about him. Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like Legolas shot this many people with his bow during the battle.
He's an angel metaphor. He's there to just deliver arrows perfect.
Yes,
and be
except for the one time at Helm's Deep that he totally fucked up. It's like when Legolas fucks up, he fucks up hard. Entire walls explode.
Let's introduce you to gunpowder. Didn't see that one coming, did you?
Didn't see that one coming. But no, characters like him didn't quite work as well for me. They just weren't as interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, I was so much more like, when's Gandalf getting back on screen? You know what I mean? Or not even, I'm not even saying I was really being impatient with it. It's just that they weren't nearly as, like, him just being cool wasn't quite...
Enough.
Yeah. And Gimli as well. Gimli, too. Like, they're definitely... I really like both those characters, especially when I was younger. I really loved Gimli and Legolas.
Yeah, totally.
And they definitely kind of get downgraded a little bit going through as far as like how important they are to me.
Yeah, it's just like, Aragorn. Just get me Aragorn on screen. Get me Aragorn on screen.
He's so compelling.
And
there's so much going on with him that really he really is the centerpiece. Though you're right, though it's like he's the centerpiece of like kind of the whole that group there. He's got his boys. But that's kind of it. They're just kind of his boys. You know what I mean?
I think in a lot of ways, though, even as you watch the films back then, growing into once Return of the King came out, and seeing like the arc and just like the impact rewatching it now when Aragorn sings after he's crowned and he marries, and he sings in Gondor there on Minas Tirith. It's just one of the greatest moments in cinema. Like, the impact is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, Aragorn. Aragorn is just, he's one of the best characters.
No,
ever.
and that's the thing though is that for every Aragorn, and then we have our Legolases. There's all these characters too that like for me are so much more interesting. Like Éomer is like one of those characters for me where it's like we don't get enough time with Éomer in a way. To me,
No.
I don't know how much more you could say. But I really find him to be interesting. Or like Faramir's storyline is extremely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
These characters that are not really quite our centerpieces, but their storylines are they're really just so compelling. You know what I mean? Like so there's really like nothing really going on with Legolas and Gimli. You know, what's going on with you guys? You know what I mean? It's like you know, Éomer's like, well, look, my country's falling apart, and my uncle is literally decaying in front of me, and this disgusting person is trying to fuck my sister. And I'm trying to fight Uruk-hai and Saruman by myself, and basically, you know, and then my cousin's dead, who's probably my best friend, is dead now, and his dad doesn't even seem to care, and yeah, my whole life's falling apart, but I'm still going to try to do everything in my duty for my country, to try to do what's right. It's just Éomer's so fucking interesting to me. Like,
Karl Urban.
Oh yeah, awesome. And that's another thing too. You gave us Karl Urban in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah,
who wasn't anybody. He's a New Zealand guy, right?
Is Karl Urban from New Zealand?
So like, yeah, he had never really done much before that. I know David Wenham is for sure.
Wellington, New Zealand.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, these are the hometown guys, and they're like, because you know, like David Wenham. Faramir is huge over there, and it's I think it's Australia, New Zealand. He's like their Brad Pitt for a long time. That's kind of what David Wenham was over there. He's like their Brad Pitt for that area of the world. Like, you know, we don't obviously get all those movies over there. There's some really interesting movies, like it's a Macedonian movie technically called Dust, starring I almost called him Faramir, David Wenham. Really, like, there's so many, like, things that obviously we don't get over here. But, yeah, over there, he's, like, him being in these movies was like, oh, there's someone we know in here. Like, for them, you know, for, like, New Zealand and, like, Australian viewers, they're like, oh, it's our guy.
He's our guy.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's really cool that you get to see these guys really get put on this bigger stage. Like, Karl Urban basically being plucked from nothing. You know, David Wenham having a career, but then being able to now cross the seas. And now you see him in tons of American movies. He gets, like, smaller roles or supporting roles and things like that.
He's a great narrator.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw 300. He's got some rockin' abs, too.
Yeah.
Looking great.
Yeah. Looking great.
But, I know, like, he's been consistently, though, getting work ever since. And
I like seeing him.
Yeah, I really like that. I think Faramir is such an interesting story. Éomer is such an interesting story. That they have in these films that we don't even get to explore nearly as much, or get as much screen time as like, or even to like Merry and Pippin. They're fun, but I would actually say there's more compelling stuff going on with them than with Legolas and Gimli, though.
Yeah, no, I'd agree too. Well, I just think it all comes down. I mean, at the end when everyone kneels to them, I mean, they're a big centerpiece. Like that's the center point. They all came from the Shire. That's where it began. That's where the ring. Started. It was them getting to breathe. You know, it was. I mean, they're the reason why, like, they even escaped the ring race. Merry and Pippin. Yeah. You know, they're like Buckleberry Ferry. Like they're the ones, like they got there. You know.
Well, Mary throws the bag to distract him.
Yeah. It starts there.
Yeah.
You know, it starts there. That's where it began.
The fact that 4 hobbits left the Shire to even try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it's so amazing.
It's the definition of an epic story.
They like represent the everyday man.
Yeah. Well, like, because, I think when Tolkien wrote it, the Shire was just supposed to basically be England.
Yeah.
Like,
and World War II.
The people of England. Yeah, it's always been kind of debated, even with him, that he's not really trying to write it to be a metaphor for World War II directly.
No.
I think there's obviously influence from his time being a soldier, but it was... From every account that we've heard,
people write from what they know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and a lot of people say that it's an allegory for the Bible too.
Yep.
It's not. You know, like there's a lot of different elements that overlap like that, but he's vehemently like it's not it's not an allegory for either of those things.
But yeah, I think that there's such a there's such a wealth of like the characters and storylines in there, and I think that definitely going this time around, my priorities on characters changed a lot.
I was way more excited to see Brad Dourif.
Oh God, I love Brad Dourif like intensely.
Yeah,
that man is
Christopher Lee too.
Oh gosh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just so.
He's acting like royalty.
Yeah,
rest in peace. Like, and honestly, it's funny because he's like the biggest Lord of the Rings nerd in that whole group.
Yeah,
yeah. Like he reads it. He would read it like every year. Like he would go back and revisit it. And he was friends with J.R.R. Tolkien though. Like he knew him. They were like peers.
Christopher Lee was old.
Yeah,
he was an old guy.
He's an old guy. Great actor. Him as Saruman. It's so great because he just. I love it because Christopher Lee was never afraid to like be these like really like malevolent characters and stuff like that. I mean, obviously being known for Dracula, and roles like that, like the Wicker Man and stuff like that. Like him as Saruman is so perfect. You know what I mean? It's like it's so great. Like that he's like this great wizard of like evil.
Yeah,
the greatest like Lord of the Rings nerd in the group. He's let me be the fucking bad guy.
He's a big metal fan too, big horror fan, like horror icon.
Yeah,
it's so watching him play that character is exciting. Like I just smile the whole time he's on screen. It's like he's doing exactly what he was kind of like.
He always probably wanted to do.
Wanted to do. And, say what you want about Harry Potter, you could argue this all day long, but does Harry Potter have Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen as wizards dueling? No.
But it did have Richard Harris's Dumbledore at all, and I'm definitely going to give it points for that. Goddamn. Michael Gambon, you just ain't the same, man. You just ain't the same. Even when I read the books, Richard Harris is my Dumbledore. But anyway... No, I know exactly what you mean, though. Like, I know exactly what you mean, and I don't think there is. But I don't think there's a lot of performances that are Ian McKellen's Gandalf, to me, He's so great. But yeah, Christopher Lee as Saruman is such a great fit. He's such a great villain for the Two Towers in the way that it's like, he's one of those great villains where it's like, it's his influence. He never gets his hands dirty. He barely uses his staff in the film at all. I don't think he uses his staff in the Two Towers at all. You know what I mean? Oh. Like, he is like this, like, big cloud, like, hanging over this movie. You know what I mean? And I really love the way that this movie does that. Because there's kind of sometimes you have those villains, right? That they're this ominous villain that you're waiting for to strike.
Well, in some ways, Sauron.
So, yeah, Sauron is definitely like that as well. But it's the thing is, though, with Sauron, it's like... It's because he's not a physical thing. I don't know. It's like kind of different a little bit. Like
Sauron is the type of villain, and
it's like an evil like god. It's kind of weird. It's Satan.
Like a lot
it's
of
different.
It's a lot of people. I've heard a lot of criticism.
For like Sauron's bad guy.
But I think like in a lot of ways we've talked about this. When you talk about movies, often there's different types of villains. There's like relatable villains. There's the sympathetic villains you have sympathy for, and then there's like the ominous, like what Darth Vader was initially, like kind of what the shark in Jaws is. It's like this ominous evil. It's a threat. You can't really put your finger on it necessarily. The Ring has that. It's this influence. It's just this like gas, like a cloud. Just evil. It just creeps up on you. It's like when your hair raises on your back. And turn, there's nothing there. That's Sauron. That's Sauron.
That's Sauron.
That's
Jesus, John. Sauron, he's gonna get ya.
All right, now go to sleep, kids.
Jesus, John. Bring it to a dark place.
Well,
scary. This is scary stuff, John.
Scary stuff. But you get the eye.
Yeah.
The sound mixing.
I don't know, man. Like. Because I remember when I first saw the films, and when Gandalf went to go, touch the ring, and that was scary to me. I was like, oh, jeez. Like that flash quick. And then whenever it happens later on, too, she's like, oh, the eye. Oh,
like, God, don't look at me.
Like when they touch the Palantir later, that whole thing. Yeah. It's, he's an evil flaming vagina, but it's a scary evil flaming vagina, You
run.
You run from it. Run! But it's inflamed, run!
Oh, jeez. And didn't land. plane is still flying.
But no, yeah, it's I could definitely see though where it's not enough for people. I think that like Sauron in general, it's like I said, he's kind of like he's the fucking devil, and he's got armies of not white people. You know, I'm not trying to make it a SJW thing. But like it is kind of like when you watch it, it just makes me go like, I don't know if they can quite do this now. Without people having a problem. You know what I mean? If this had come out now, people would definitely be like, this movie's racist from like the first week. People would be making all these think piece articles about how the Lord of the Rings is racist.
Yeah, there's not...
Orcs are black people! Like, no, they're not. They're evil mud elves.
They're evil mud elves. It's somewhere bred with humans.
Yeah. 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 I know they're from a lower income society, but it's not a race thing. It's not, I swear. Yeah, the Southrons and the Easterlings, it gets a little rough. Oh,
it's an odd rabbit trail.
It's an odd rabbit trail, but it's hard not to think of it once you start talking about, Sauron and his forces. But I think it really, for me, it's the force of his army that is really this big threat. Don't care, honestly, what's going on with Sauron in that way, because like I said, he's like the devil. And these are the armies of the devil that they're fighting. I think that's enough for me with him, a little bit. You know what I mean? I think we get enough of, like, why Sauron's awful and just pure evil. That's what he's supposed to be, just pure evil.
Yeah.
You know? And then I guess that's why people go with the religious thing, with this movie sometimes.
Oh, gosh. I could do a whole podcast separate from this, just talking about the similarities.
But like you said, we write what we know.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think in the similar way, like, Saruman is a smaller scale, that big ominous cloud. Like, I love that, though, about Sauron in these films. It's just he's the volcano. He's the giant smoke cloud. He's the thousands of orcs. He's all of that. He's just the evil of the world, all encompassing.
I think it's really interesting about that, though, is, you could say what you want about that ominous threat, but it's like the ring is Sauron.
Yeah, exactly.
And the ring...
It's like a Father, Son, Holy Ghost kind of thing.
And the ring has a very specific type of personality.
Yeah. Oh, I love how much personality the ring has, period. I love how people talk about the ring. Like, especially in the opening with Galadriel, because she just puts it into perspective immediately.
Yeah.
Just like, the ring betrayed Isildur. You know what I mean? Like, it chose. Like, they talk about it like that. The ring choosing to do something.
Yep.
It gets a little bigger, slips off your finger, rolls away, because it doesn't want to be with you. It has intent. It's a really cool thing. Like, I think that all those elements are what make Sauron this great villain. And it's such a subtle thing, such a little thing, as they say. And
I should just take it for myself. What harm could it do? Put it in my pocket here, just touch it every now and then.
But I don't want to turn this to the religious Lord of the Rings podcast too much, but it's pure temptation. It's the evil of temptation. If Sauron is the big broad evil, you know what I mean? He's got all these weapons of evil. He's got tooth and nail. You know what I mean? He could tear you to pieces. He could, murder you. He could take your soul with something like the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what he does to Frodo. It's what he's done to Gollum.
Yeah.
So it's I love it because he's working on all these different levels. You know what I mean? Of just evil, pure evil. He's a little sucking the life out of Arwen. That's what I love in that one extended scene in The Return of the King is when he goes to Aragorn's like, I'm gonna threaten him I'm gonna confirm and kind of threaten him in the Palantir, and Saruman's like, dude, get on my level. I'm sucking the life out of your girlfriend right now. You know what I mean? And then Aragorn's just taken aback. I'm just like, that's evil enough for me, man.
The immortal daughter of Elrond.
Yeah.
Who was there on the battlefield watching
just his existence makes her life force leave her. Like, that's how fucking evil he is, man. Like, is that not enough, man?
It's pretty evil.
It's pretty fucking evil. You know, and I mean, I definitely understand if it doesn't work for some people, but I think that Sauron as a villain is working on all these levels. And then, too, like, Saruman being an extension of that. He's just the human proxy that he's kind of, like, using. You know, he's just like, oh, go be my agent of evil. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're powerful, too, yeah.
I think when I mentioned Brad Dourif earlier, too, and just, like, how exciting it was to see him, and something I noticed this time around, watch closely if you guys are going to sit down and watch the movie, but the scene where Saruman shows Wormtongue the army, and he comes out, there's so much nuance to Dourif's, like, he's not on camera that much, but, like, every little bit that he's on, he's so good. And that tear, like, his, like, elation at seeing this army of, you know, just evil, and just how, it's like,
taken aback by
I can't even comprehend what I'm seeing right now. Brad Dourif, that little moment right there is so good. It's so good. It's just, I just wanted to applaud. Like, just start clapping at my home, in my living room. Just like, he's so good.
He's ridiculously underrated. And it sucks. It's like, you know, like, guys like him and, like, Willem Dafoe get the short end of the fucking stick all the time because of what they look like. And so they get put in these roles, they get typecast in these roles of, like, these nasty, gross, but they're just they're amazing actors. And I'm so glad, though, that they do, because it's like, well, if someone's going to do these roles, I'm glad that it's these great actors.
Yeah, totally.
And, like, it's one of the reasons I love Exorcist 3 is his performance in there. Brad Dourif is just, he's such an underrated actor. And yeah, he has that moment of awe at seeing the army of Uruk-hai. Because it's not even an army of orcs, it's an army of Uruk-hai.
Yeah, he like it's a new breed.
Yeah, a new breed, and even stronger. They're like, you know, all up on roids and stuff, and like, you know, they look like all of LeVar Ball's sons or whatever. Whatever his name is.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, but yeah, no, it's yeah, there's so many little performances, and there's so many great actors and characters. Like, even someone like Theoden is such an interesting story, like trying to find redemption and trying to find purpose among his ancestors, feeling like he's completely failed, and trying to find something to. I'm trying to regain his honor. I'm not trying to sound too much like Prince Zuko here, but like just trying to get his honor back. And I think that's such like I said, it's a little storyline that's just sort of happening, like as the last two movies unfold, that you don't even realize how invested you are in until you get to the end. You know, and not just Theoden as well. I immediately think of Eowyn as well. Such an interesting story, and it's so cool because it was like a great feminist story before, like, feminism was kind of everywhere. Like, now with movies like Wonder Woman, it's like you know, that's another one that's like that now it's well, shit. It's 15 years old now, right?
If you watch, it's funny too, because if the Two Towers came out now, that would just be ripped apart. Because, you know what I mean? Because of the perception of her in the Two Towers. Like, obviously, the Return of the King, it really, like, she goes out in the battlefield. She takes on, you know...
Mm-hmm. The Witch King.
The Witch King, which is awesome. You know, and the, you know, the scene with... Oh, my gosh, the scene with her and Theoden on the field is so amazing. But, you know, she's trying to get Aragorn, or she's in love with Aragorn, you know. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, nah, I got a girl already, you know. Yeah. Which I do love. There's a lot of subtlety and there's a lot of nuance in that. Because it's so amazing, and like, of course, that is like Howard Shore's music, which I haven't even uttered the words Howard Shore yet. But
and there's this interesting conflict though with that, with that story between Eowyn and Arwen, this love triangle, because you can't ever. They do such a great job of it's like Aragorn really doesn't do anything wrong, in the way that it's like Eowyn might just be leaving forever. She's an elf. They might not be able to be together. Yeah. And I think that he realizes that he could love Eowyn. You know what I mean? He could move on and love Eowyn possibly, but all of this stuff that's happening.
Princess of Rohan?
You know, and I don't even think it's about that. I think it's
no,
about
just another element. Just another element.
Yeah. But I think that it's the kind of the qualities that she shows really early on. Like even when before we even see him get to her, like how she handles everything with Theoden. We see how she is as kind of a leader within within Edoras. You know what I mean? And as like not quite a doting, but a as this niece that's trying to take care of her uncle, trying to take care of her country, trying to mourn her cousin, and
what do you fear, Lady Rome? Cage.
Yeah.
She's an awesome character, and it's interesting because she's trying to be more. It's so awesome, like the responsibilities and the role that she has to do. She has to protect the people. She has to get them to Helm's Deep. She has to take care of them in the caves, like, and her feeling like that's not enough.
Yeah.
But then in Return of the King, just her out on the battlefield, getting to do exactly that. What she wanted is to help fight, and she. Gosh, the scene with her in The Witch King. I am no man, and stabs her in the face.
That's so funny because everybody was like, kind of like asking really desperately for that line in Wonder Woman. They're like, I was kind of waiting for her to say it. It's like, well, we've had Eowyn say it. You know what I mean? She'll need to say it, like, But I think that it's such a great scene. It's such a, it's like before it was even super popular to be putting that in a film. Not that it's a thing, like it's some chore or thing that needs to be checked off the list, but definitely something that like we weren't nearly as conscious about as we are right now. About trying to have better roles for women and having more impactful roles to the story besides just being a love interest. And I mean, there's definitely a thing of like, well, you could argue that like, Eowyn is really defined by Aragorn and that doesn't make her own character and it's not feminist enough. But I think that she is able to achieve something, and I think that it's really the story with her and Mary that really solidifies it.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that, she believes that everybody should be able to fight for who they love, and if that's what they choose to do. And I think that it's the Return of the King that really drives her story home for me.
I think it's funny because I've seen the criticism that Lord of the Rings, like, there's no, what's that scale called? Like, whatever it is, like, minorities or women.
Test?
Yeah.
So.
Where there's just no two women conversate in the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
But, like, Arwen is an amazing character as well, even though she is the love interest. Like, your introduction to her is, like, an awesome horse chase scene, and her, like, it's an amazing introduction, and she's also about to marry the king of Gondor, Aragorn. So, and then Eowyn's character. I mean, these are really the two.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely
have, but they're both.
I think Eowyn does talk to a woman, like when they're like, she's like, "Run for help,"
just a little bit.
Okay, come on now. They didn't talk about their hair. It's okay. I think it's definitely, though. I definitely would say that's a decent. I'd say it's a decent acknowledgement. There's not a lot of female characters. There isn't.
No.
You know what I mean? It's. But it also was written, by a guy that fought World War II. It was like, it's a pretty old story, and it was, you know what I mean? So that part of it is still very old school, just like how all the characters are white. I'm not going to jump on that. You know what I mean? It's like people from this last year with Dunkirk, like, why is everyone in Dunkirk white? Like, because it's Dunkirk. Like, who was there? I mean, like, at least the majority of them being white, if we're talking about, that specific place and time. It's such a, I don't know, like, I'm glad that, like, the movies got to come out before that became such a thing, such a headache, I think, sometimes, where it's like, sometimes when movies don't purposely do it. They're not trying to do it on purpose. Like, The Lord of the Rings wasn't trying to do that on purpose. It's like, that's what was literally on the page. They're adapting the story. The books don't have a lot of female characters either that conversate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess they could write one in, but they're already 4 hours long each. Basically,
I mean, like, Eowyn's character doesn't even need to exist in the movies.
Yeah.
She wouldn't need to. But she's an awesome storyline to have added into a 4-hour epic.
Yeah.
You know. So, it's just one of those things, but...
but it definitely, they definitely have great moments. So each female character has these really great epic moments, like you said. Arwen taking out the ring raids is such an awesome scene, and then Éowyn killing the Witch King. It's like we talk about like these characters. I think it's something about it now where it's like the characters' feats are like in more perspective, or maybe just because I haven't watched in a while. Just the impact.
The Witch King destroys Gandalf's staff.
Yeah, like he's just like
down.
You're like,
just,
nah, it's done.
This is my power.
Yeah. You know that thing you did? Yeah.
In the extended version, if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, but yeah. It's a really there's such great rousing moments, and I think that's the thing that separates Return of the King from the other two films is that there's these great character moments we get to see come to fruition. Yes. That the other films don't have. Like I said, like there's something about Fellowship that it draws you in. It's this developed, full, lived-in world. It feels real. It feels like, oh man, I just got transported to Middle Earth. That's what the Fellowship brings to the table, I think, every single time. Two Towers is like, okay, let's see everybody in action. Let's have a big action sequence, lots of sword fighting. It's,
elves and men fighting together. It's the only time
it's
in the trilogy.
the raid, for the end of the movie. And, I mean, Helm's Deep is, like, one of the best battle sequences of all time. It's like, we talk about epic battles on film. It's like, Helm's Deep has got to be
the shot after the gunpowder blast and Aragorn is in there with the elves. Yeah. And he, like, just orders the arrow. Orders the arrows and then charges in. That's just epic. Like, every shot of Aragorn running. I Return of the King, too, at the end. Yeah. Just, like, for Frodo. And he just charges the Black Gate. Like, he fights a cave troll by himself. Like, I want to be Aragorn. I want to be Aragorn. Yeah. Just amazing. But that scene with Aragorn is so amazing. Sam's got so many great scenes in Return of the King as well. Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, Shelob's lair. Yeah, him carrying Frodo. Well, and even before that, Minas Morgul when he saves Frodo, like when you know what I mean, when he goes in there and you know what I mean, when Frodo's been captured after Shelob. Yeah, he goes in there, just straight up, just killing all these orcs. The shadow. Yeah, I love that. Sam, like we were saying before, is such a great character. There's some of the greatest moments with him are in Return of the King. Honestly, it's funny too. Even the thing of like at the end, when he fights Gollum to let Frodo try to get in there, and it doesn't work because Frodo switches at the end, but I always look at it as like because we watch Sam go from. What are you waiting for? I mean, with the conflict, right before that, where it's like we've seen it kind of like Sam kind of come full circle in some ways there. Like you think about like his first fight with Gollum, he kind of gets stomped. You know what I mean? And I think that you see like Sam has kind of he's just become stronger now. He's just become a stronger person. He's been through all this shit to get there. His will. Exactly. His sheer will and determination are just so much in that moment, and like, it's powerful. Like, it's such a powerful storyline, and Sean Astin does such a great job bringing it like together. It's sad that people like forget about some of it sometimes, though. You know what I mean? Like as often as we see Sean Astin, I know. You know what I mean? Like, can we get him in more stuff? Come on, Stranger Things had to have helped. It had to have helped. He's really fantastic. Like I said, he's America's uncle. He's America's cool but stable uncle. But yeah, I really love these moments that Return of the King gives us with Sam. Go right down the list, like with all these characters too, like Faramir. I mean, like the Pippin when he sings. Mm-hmm. When Faramir tries to retake Osgiliath, like that moment cinematically is just it's hard to even like say words. It is just really beautifully put together. Just the way that it shows all that stuff, the silence of them like drawing all their bows. Like I love too actually the shot of we see them riding out and it shows
Osgiliath, and it's like one orc. And then it's like, all these orcs. Like, it just using the imagery as the song is going and just telling the story without having to show us a battle, you know, or really a massacre. But it's so well put together by Peter Jackson.
That is good filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's good filmmaking because you know exactly what already is going to happen. You don't even need to see anything else. I mean, how many orcs did it really look like coming off the boats? You know what I mean? Like, it's what you feel. It's how he established it in the characters and how they react. And just Faramir basically just saying, I'll go out and I'll kill myself for you, Dad.
If that's what it takes.
If that's what it takes. You know, if that's what you'd rather have Boromir here. So sad. It's so...
It's like painfully sad.
It's
like
painfully
Faramir's
sad
storyline. Faramir and Boromir's story, really, if you kind of put them together a little bit.
Yeah, the stewards of Gondor. Mm-hmm. It just... Oh, man, it's like a moment of silence for for that. But yeah, that's just like cinematic weight.
You know, the scene for me in Return of the King that for Pippin is... Well, it's Pippin and Gandalf, but it's they're like on the last gates of Minas Tirith. And, you know, basically Pippin's like, hey, you know, I'm afraid to die. You know, I don't, and Gandalf's like, look, I've been to the other side, and I've seen what is there. And it's like one of the most beautiful, like, most peaceful, like, moments of just kind of like, you're just speaking about death and the other side, and so it's so like just I don't know, it's so beautifully like spiritual,
very very beautiful. Yeah, it's like what you're just talking about when we were talking about earlier about like the Shire and how you feel. It's like Gandalf, Ian McKellen brought that to Pippin in that moment, and to the audience.
He's just like a light in the darkness of everything that's going on in the films. You know, and it's so great when he becomes Gandalf the White. You know what I mean? That way, because he really does embody that.
He does.
But yeah, I think
it's a great scene too. It's a great moment.
Yeah, that always strikes me as a really beautiful, great moment. It's hard to not get like emotionally like welled up in some of those moments.
Theoden's speech when
the charge
for the charge, like that's just one of the greatest moments ever.
Yeah,
it's just one of the greatest moments ever, and the scale, which I think is still the largest battle ever captured on film.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of CGI works in that one. Yeah. You know, a lot more. Yeah.
But I love...
But there's, like, the horses charging in. I mean, like, there is a lot of real horses out there doing some work, too, and it's just such an amazing film. You know, like, realign when you hear the horn.
Yeah.
With the elephants and stuff. It's...
I love that sequence because it's such a great rousing moment because we've watched them get basically beat back, and we're like, is Aragorn going to show up? Is anyone going to show up? You know what I mean? It's looking hopeless. It's right after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, why would Rohan even come? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the way that Gondor has been for so long, and Theoden was, you know, taken under by Saruman for however long. It's just like, men have been split. And it's such a rousing moment to see that they are reunited. And it's because of Aragorn, and it's because, like, this is what the world needs at this moment. It's such a powerful
and it's so great for Theoden, you know. I love there's a moment where after when he dies, you know, after the Witch King attacks, where he says like I can't I'm paraphrasing here, but you know that, you know, because he was kind of hit with that line, and it's only in the extended. It's one of the things I know. I think we were talking on the movie group too about the Saruman scene. It's the thing, though, is that he says that thing to Theoden, and it makes Theoden's storyline just a little bit better. He says that thing that you were a lesser son of greater sires. Yeah, and it's this thing where it's like he knows the thing that's cut. I mean, obviously he was in Theoden's head, but he says that thing to shoot him right in the fucking heart. He knows that exact thing, that thing that he fears. And that you know, he's failed completely, and that he's failed all of his fathers and all their fathers before him, and that he's not a good king, and that... and that's all he wants to be, is a great leader for his people and to help his people and to make up for what he feels like he let happen. And he kind of, you know, Saruman places that dagger in his heart, and it's so great in that moment where he says that, you know, I can go on now not feeling ashamed to be in the company of those people now when I go to the other side. And it's like, it's just like this amazing moment. It's such an amazing moment. It's hard for me to like think about that scene without getting like emotionally welled up. It's Theoden's story is, like I said, very subtly. They just have these great little stories and characters that really are just beautiful. And like they're stories. I mean, they're just beautiful, like to watch unfold. And
which is amazing. For like Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson adapting these things too.
Yeah.
Because with what they did, like how much did J.R.R. Tolkien write about, you know, Rohan, Theoden, and like all these things, and like actually taking that, adapting it to a screenplay, and like you only have this limited amount of time to just to detail these things.
Yeah. They breathe life into
and you're able to take
characterization.
Yeah, and you just take just enough, and it has that emotional impact in the film. That's amazing, and that's why it won, you know, 11 Oscars.
Yeah,
like it's stuff like that. It truly is just one of the greatest films ever made, just top to bottom. I'm not talking about Return of the King. The whole trilogy is, but after rewatching the trilogy this time, I'm really struggling with. I think Return of the King might be my favorite. Just simply because of those things, these moments, these character beats, the payoffs to everything, the weight of it, the music, the like Pippin, like the original music is so beautiful. Like I said, Aragorn singing that song, it's so impactful, it's so memorable, and you feel all 12 hours leading up to that.
Yeah,
in that, you know, like the journey. And like with Pippin too, and his song, and like Osgiliath, it's just something else, you know, to have that feeling watching a movie. I've never really felt that way with any other film. I love I know it's been a while since we brought up Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but Return of the Jedi, it has the redemption of Luke, you know, with Vader is an amazing cinematic scene and moment. But I mean, does it really hold a candle up to that, to Return of the King?
Yeah, I think that, you know, like I said early on in the beginning of the podcast, you know, I think that I definitely went into this going like, hey, you know, what truly is the trilogy? You know, and I really think that it's tough when you go with all three films. Pound for pound, The Lord of the Rings wins it. You know what I mean? There's just so much. It's hard to find a bad moment in the movies, let alone like entire Ewok level problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Just the three fart jokes in Jedi alone knocks the trilogy down. Comparing it in some ways to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And you know, they have similar, I think, places in cinema, but I think that especially too when you look at, like, I think that Lord of the Rings is going to have even more longevity as far as like actually like visually holding up. Those movies are so rock solid in so many ways. And just, like I said, going back, and what makes The Lord of the Rings so great is all of the tangible things, all of the real things that they made to, like, make that world feel real, you know? All the locations they went to make these places look like real places, and they didn't just put a green screen behind people, and they didn't just put them on sound sets and stuff, and put them in studios. They built entire, like, castles and shit. You know, they built Edoras. Like, that to me is another one where I'm just like, man. I mean, I guess I maybe just picked the full Lord of the Rings New Zealand package, maybe, for my Make-A-Wish thing I was saying, but it's stuff like that, though, that it's like you can't like... that's what gives the movies longevity. That's what gets them to be timeless. Because you put the time into them to make them timeless. That would just
be green screen, though. Yeah, it would be. It would just be green screen.
And that's why the Hobbit movies just don't have the impact. Is because they're a lot like that. Now, circumstances aside, it's just the truth of those films.
Well, characters.
Yeah.
Characters, too. I like this movie, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, just, if you look at all of the characters and their arcs, their struggles, their individual... I mean, like, everybody has stuff going on. Pippin, Merry... They have huge, like, they have awesome character arcs.
Yeah.
Frodo, Sam, Gandalf, Boromir, Aragorn. Like, I mean, it's like really, Legolas and Gimli are like some of the two that don't really have character arcs.
Yeah.
They're like the sidekicks in a way. but it's still great. It still works great because of like their competition with each other.
Yeah.
And like how dwarves hate elves, you know what I mean? Just so like that
and then
dynamic is really cool.
Their devotion to Aragorn.
Yes.
That connects them. And like the feeling of true brotherhood between those three characters.
Yes.
That still all comes across.
There's still really good things going on. It's just like individual character beats, like from start to finish. There's not much that changes besides that they are able to accept each other as different, which has never been really done before. You know, so that's cool too in itself. But I mean, Eowyn, Theoden, like all these characters, Faramir, they all have so much to do. There's so much going on within them. In Gollum, even like we said before, like how many characters like that are written. It just how unbelievable it is from start to finish. So amazing. Such an amazing trilogy. And actually, I did want to touch on this before we closed up, but just like after watching The Lord of the Rings, which was my first Peter Jackson anything, you know, who's Peter Jackson? Peter Jackson's the director of Lord of the Rings. And watching his older horror films after that and kind of getting accustomed to what his style is. And then revisiting it this time, too. Just seeing, like, all the horror elements that are just everywhere in this trilogy. It's quite fantastic.
Yeah. And it makes sense then when you really look at it, like, why he was the right pick.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to go and, like, look at something like Brain Dead or Dead Alive and go, like, oh, like, that's the guy that should do Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know?
Then, like, the Frighteners, too.
Yeah.
After that.
And it's, we look at those previous films and just sort of go, like, so then you want this guy to do your big, epic, crowd-pleasing fantasy film? What? There's a giant, like, evil vagina in his most famous movie. Like, what? So, it's, you know, but, like, yeah, when you start watching it, especially as an adult, it's so funny how it's, like, it seemed less scary when I was a kid or something. Like, I was like, oh, this is, whoa. And then, like, now I'm looking at Sheila, I'm like, oh! Like, no! And some of these orcs and stuff like that, you know, there's so many different horror elements to it that I think only, like, in some ways a horror director really could do it.
Yeah, it's his camera. It's his camera.
Hit those things just the right way.
His camera techniques, his panning, the way he shoots.
Well, I think horror directors usually are always the best the best with actual, like, camera movement. And, like, actually, how to utilize cameras. Yeah, you know, they're the kings of, like, we had to figure this shit out somehow.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that earlier right at the head of the show, you know, what makes Fellowship great. And it's that thing that horror directors have. Because that's how they always have to work. We've got to make this thing work somehow. How do we do this? We have to have her cut her tongue in half here with the box cutter. How do we do that and make that look kind of real? It's
with low budget too. Yeah, like horror directors, that's what you do. I mean, like it's like Sam Raimi, The Evil Dead, which a lot of similarities.
Oh yeah, totally in their styles.
Raimi and Peter Jackson, which is awesome. I love
Raimi.
Yeah,
and it's it's something that I think that, like, people definitely. It's funny how we always come back to horror somehow, but it's one of those things that I think that horror directors always really have over some other styles of directors. I think they get kind of underappreciated a little bit. That a lot of these guys are some of the most talented people with a camera, you know, as far as actually how to capture something and how to actually set up a shot to make someone feel like something, you know, because they have to do a lot of actual physical camera work to do the work of, you know, a writer, you know, or do the work of sometimes even the actor or the monster. Like, some of the camera is the monster. So they have to, like I said, I think that's what makes them some of the most technically skilled, directors out there. I mean, look at Guillermo, man. That's where he started, you know, and
totally.
Not to make him the hot button guy right now, but I think it's definitely indicative of horror directors really having a technical prowess that certain other ones don't. But yeah, I think that Peter Jackson was kind of one of the only few that really could have done this movie and brought this all together in the right way.
Yeah, because I used to think it was strange. You know, I always thought it was kind of strange. Like, oh, it's weird that Peter Jackson got it, but it's like now watching it after, you know, developing that sense and understanding those things, it's like he was perfect for it.
Yeah,
perfect. There's no other director that could have done this. But I mean, his passion for it is definitely front and center. He loved it.
Mm-hmm. That's why he put himself in every single one of them.
Yeah, a little bit here and there. But no, Peter Jackson's awesome. I applaud him for giving me literally one of my favorite films of all time, if not my favorite film of all time. I mean, like I always say, The Matrix is my favorite film, but geez, like The Lord of the Rings had so much impact on me, and just cinematically, it kind of carries all the accolades. It's got how many Oscar wins. Return of the King deserved Best Picture. It is a Best Picture. It's just cinematic royalty.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before, and trying to compare it to the other great trilogies, I don't think it's actually as much of a competition as people would like me to say it is. I think that The Lord of the Rings really is the greatest trilogy as far as to epic trilogies like that in film that exist. It just is the best because it's the most well-made, on just every level of what it takes to create a film. And create a film that people love and cherish and remember and sticks with people for years and years and years. Like, this literally has every element, every basis covered. There's nothing that you're like, oh, that didn't seem like they put a lot of time or effort into that. Everything felt like everyone was pushing as hard as they could and doing the best work that they could, no matter the circumstance. And like I said, that's where a lot of innovation comes from, is because these people are up against the wall. And they need that these group of creative people have to figure this out. And what they're going to have on the other side of it is something like this. Something that feels so tangible, so real. And it really, just like I said, it puts into focus what these blockbusters took away from it that were wrong. And not the things that were right. And for me, it's like that tangibility thing. It's every time I look at an orc in The Lord of the Rings, it's like, I think I said it 80 times when we were doing the extended cut. It was 12 hours. And I'd say a good solid hour of is me saying how fucking much I like an orc.
The makeup is amazing. It just holds up. Looks great.
It's so good, though, and it's mind-blowing. And I think that that's the thing, is that we revisit these right now. It's just like, imagine if they would do some of this stuff now and spend the money on it now instead of spending it on marketing.
That's why I wanted to sneak out a little... who else is excited for Denis Villeneuve's Dune? After seeing Blade Runner, and now he's talking about making it making it multiple films.
And then people who go why did all these film nerds love Blade Runner 2049 so much? It was boring, and Ryan Gosling doesn't act very good. It's because when you watch so many fake films that look like they were built in a can, it's so fucking nice to see a movie that feels and looks tangible again. It doesn't look like fucking Gumby characters and CGI garbage everywhere, and the easy way out. So many movies seem like the easy way of just, how can we easily do this? Instead of, how can I actually bring an audience somewhere else? And Lord of the Rings is probably one of the last few things I can think of that truly does that in film. I'm going to take you somewhere else,
Yeah.
True escapism,
Well written, well made.
Yep. Again, like I said, TV just comes out the other end with that, going we figured it out. We figured out what people were really looking for. Yeah. And what makes that stick, and it's the characters. It's the characters, it's the world, it's it feeling real, or it not feeling real. I think that's the biggest lesson I took away from rewatching them now, is just, it cannot be overstated enough how important practical effects are. Like I said, these teams of people that make miniatures, we need to give them work. Because, oh my gosh, does every castle look so good. Every miniature in this thing looks so amazing. Mm-hmm. Say, we can look at movies from 1977, those look great. I'd rather have that over the CGI any day.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's what makes them special and what makes it such a different thing. I think people will look at other films that are like Lord of the Rings-ish, that, that don't do any of these things. And they think, it's like the same thing. And it's like, there's a reason why this is separate. And sometimes it doesn't strike people because they don't quite think of it. That they're looking at something that's real and that they're looking at something that's a bunch of CGI. I think that, obviously people who pay attention to film, we know. Because we're looking at those elements. That's what we're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We have to look like we're looking at all that stuff. Otherwise, when we do these kind of things, people are like, hey, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah. I could have told you that.
Yeah.
Why listen?
Exactly. Exactly.
Gotta strive so hard to be creative and
it's like I said, it can't be overstated how much practical effects, how much costumes, locations, physical places. You know, they mean so much more when you're doing something like this, and in any film really. Where I just wish that we would get more things like this. I would rather wait years for a movie like this than get, them flip me a movie in 6 weeks like they do with some of these blockbusters now. I'd rather have...
You have to bring up Suicide Squad.
Oh, was that the reference I was making?
Hey, here, David Ayer, read a screenplay in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
thank you.
Exactly.
Come on.
This is why these movies are fantastic. It's because you had literally an entire village of people
it's crazy
working toward these movies for years.
Budget for the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings is less than some of the big blockbusters that come out nowadays. Granted there is inflation in play in there, but it's not that drastic.
And to think though, they made a whole castle. They made
the whole trilogy.
They made the Shire. They made all this stuff.
Justice League cost more money than this entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Even Blade Runner 2049, I think, cost about the same as this whole trilogy.
Honestly, if it really costs less to make some of these things than to pay guys to do CGI, let's just turn it around. I mean, hey, that's going to help the studios too.
Well, that's what you do when you cast a bunch of the majority of your cast is not big names.
Yeah.
I mean, who is really the biggest name at that time? I mean, Ian McKellen was pretty. I mean, Christopher Lee. But Christopher Lee probably did it for free. How much money is he? No, I'll just be in it.
Then though, I don't think the layman doesn't know who he is.
Blanchett, which we didn't mention. Her
I think a lot of people. Kate
Blanchett,
Galadriel was one of the only ones they would know. By that time, unless they were really into British cinema, not a lot of people knew. You know what I mean? Before Galadriel, it was one of the big things that put her on the spotlight. And got her name more into America.
Sean Astin was a popular character.
I would say
90s.
The biggest was probably Elijah Wood or Ian McKellen. Would have been the ones oh, I know who he is. You know? It would have been those two. Mainly because Elijah was such a well-known child actor, and Ian McKellen because of Magneto. They would have been the most recognizable faces on the screen for people. Oh, I know who that is. But Viggo Mortensen was...
Yeah, who's Viggo Mortensen?
Yeah, who the fuck is that?
He's a villain in
a couple movies. In a couple movies.
Small roles.
Yeah. I remember when we first saw it, I told my mom, oh yeah, Viggo Mortensen plays Aragorn. He's really good. And my mom was like, oh, him? He's nasty in this movie. And it was just just watch Lord of the Rings, Mom. Just watch it.
just watch
She never looked back. She never talks about Viggo like that anymore.
Well, now we got Captain Fantastic.
Oh, God. So
thank
good,
you,
so
Viggo.
good.
Thank you.
Got Hidalgo. I get some middling shit. No, I love Viggo Mortensen though. Really, such a great actor.
Such a great actor. Yeah.
I wish we'd see him more.
I do too.
Oh my goodness, it's so much to unpack. It's so much stuff.
So much we could do. We could do
it's
multiple.
12. It's 12 hours of movies. So it being a long podcast, I apologize, but. You guys signed on for a Lord of the Rings podcast. It's really hard to go over that much material without making this a long episode.
Yeah, almost geez, do we talk about enough? Do we need to do another one?
I almost feel like it could be I almost feel like it could be you could do podcasts on each individual movie. If we actually sat and deep dove. Because this is really just us. We decided to rewatch the extended cuts together. And we keep seeing everybody talking about Lord of the Rings right now because they just hit Netflix, and I keep seeing memes and GIFs and stuff, and it's just people are talking about them again, and I'm so happy. People
rating them, which, by the way, I give each film a 10 out of 10. I think the trilogy is a 10 out of 10 in my book.
Yeah.
I mean, just even A+, A+.
The thing I think I got from it was that they all just have different qualities. It's the Fellowship. It's the world. It's the world building. It's the immersion. Two Towers. We get to see all of our characters be badasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the one where it's like I said, it's kind of like gets to be more of an action movie a little bit. You know what I mean?
Still a lot of quiet moments though too. I mean,
of course, but Sam's speech at the end of Two Towers is one of the greatest moments in any movie. Yeah. And honestly, what like everyone needed to hear at that time. And then I just definitely want to make sure I mention that before we're done. But it definitely is kind of to me. It's like it's the more action movie one because it's like the set piece really is Helm's Deep. It's this big action scene that we're getting to. Like that is like where that movie is going. You know what I mean? And I think that then you have what Return of the King brings is the characters. It brings the characters full circle, and it's such a satisfying ending for any trilogy, any film, and any really like group of characters and character arcs. It brings the emotion, and it brings great closure to the whole thing. And I think that they all have a kind of this different thing, and that's why it's really hard for me to sit there and go like, well, I like this one more than that one.
It's one movie. It's
one story. It's hard to separate to me because they're all of just such great quality. It's really hard to sit there and go like, well, this one's so much better. It's like we said before, it's like picking your favorite child.
And that's the only reason why Two Towers is kind of like just where I'm like, which is my favorite, Fellowship or Return? It's simply because the Two Towers is just the second act. It's just because it's the second act. Like that's it. If it's your favorite, which is my wife's favorite, fine. Like, totally okay.
There's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer.
So, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed listening to us talk about Lord of the Rings. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I feel like there's so much more that we could unpack with these films. They're so deep and detailed. But, you know, tell us in the comments here what you think of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Which one is your favorite film? I think John said it before that you think Return of the King is not your favorite. Or just the whole thing.
I can't. Don't decide.
You know, for me, I think it's still... I will totally say it's a biased thing. The Fellowship is still just kind of my favorite.
It just still is.
It's the one that's in like my heart the most.
I love watching at the beginning instead of the end. I think it's just because I love the movies so much. I'd much rather start at the beginning than at the end.
Yeah, I agree
because it hurts to end it. Like that's truly how I feel.
But yeah, I don't think there's a wrong answer, guys. So tell us what you think about the trilogy. What's your favorite? Is it all your favorite? I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I really hope that if you've never seen Lord of the Rings, that you stopped listening a while ago and you're watching them now. You're only part of the way through Fellowship if you did. You got like another hour and a half or so. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I've been John Vanderloo.
And we'll see you guys next time.